Okay, so we're going to look at how to do binomial distributions on your graphics calculator. This will work for any Casio pretty much, certainly the edition that you see here. It works generally the same on most of them. So let's just have a wee look at this. So first thing you want to do obviously is turn your calculator on, okay, and what you're going to do is, well, mine's already on, you're going to push the menu button, and then you've just got to think, well, what am I doing? I'm in stats, presumably that's the subject that you're doing, and I'm doing the distributions paper, so I'm going to be looking under distributions, and binomials there. Now notice obviously you can go across and access extra options there if you're going to do Poisson, but let's go for binomial. Okay, now the first thing you want to decide now is the question going to be asking you for a single value, or is it going to be a whole lot of values? So is it 5 people or less than 4 people or something like that? So if it's a single value, then it's BPD or point distribution. If it's BCD, that's cumulative. So let's say for the sake of argument that you're going to use just a single value, so you can click on F1. Now if your calculator's recently been reset or some other reason, you may have, your data may say list like mine does there. So you can change that between list and variable by pushing F1 and F2. So if you push F2, notice above F2 it says variable, that's the option that you want. Now you can use list. Some people in my classes have taught themselves to use that. You're more than welcome to do that. So once you've got that, you can input on there, you can input what your X value is, how many trials, and what the probability of success is. Okay, so let's have a look. So why we use point? Point is for calculating single distributions, like when X is 8. Cumulative only works out, examples that are less than or equal to. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to rephrase any questions that aren't there into less than or equal to, and I'll show you how to do that in just a minute. So for example here, this one says less than or equal to. So this is okay because this is exactly what the calculator is set up to do. Okay, when you choose BCD, less than or equal to, is exactly what the calculator is set up to do, because you're looking at cumulatively everything from 0 up to 8. 0 up to and including 8. So that's why it's less than or equal to. Right? Okay, what if the question, so on your calculator, you're just going to go straight BCD and choose 8. But what if the question says less than 8? Not less than or equal to, but less than 8. Well, obviously 8 is not included, so we want cumulative from 0 up to 7. That's right. So on your calculator, you're going to put 7 as your X value. So you're going to choose BCD. Remember, if it equaled 8, obviously that's when you use BPD. Okay, or binomial point distribution. So if we look at this one, what if it's greater than 8? So here's the thing. We want everything that's more than 8. Is 8 included in more than 8? No, 8 is not included. So on our calculator, what are we going to do? Right, well the big thing is that all of the probabilities added together equal 1, right? So what we want to do is get all the ones that aren't included in this question, which will include 8, because we don't want to include 8, so the ones that aren't included do include 8, right? So we're going to be looking at this group from 0 up to 8, and we're going to take away those probabilities from 1 to give us the ones in the red box. So we calculate what's in the blue box, everything else is in the red box. So we're going to go, on our calculator we're going to go 8 because we want from 0 to 8, and then we're going to take those options away from 1. So on your calculator, use BCD make your x value 8 and take that away from 1. Yep. Okay. At least 8 times. Okay, so here we're talking about greater than or equal to 8. So we want to include 8. So what should we put on our calculator? So we're going to go to BCD. We're interested in 8 or more, right? So what we've got to take away is everything from 0 to 7. So we're going to do BCD 7, and then that's going to be what's in the blue box. We take all of those probabilities away from 1. What's left must be what's in the red box. So we enter it on our calculator, x is 7, and take that away from 1. Okay? So here, just quickly recapping. So our first example here is exactly what the calculator is set up to do. X is less than or equal to whatever the value is. We just put the number that's there on the calculator, and that's the answer. Okay, so what if it's just greater than, less than 8? Okay, well in that case we don't want to include 8, so we put in the highest value that we want to include, so we enter 7 on the calculator. So if it's less than 8, we put in 7, because we want less than or equal to 7. Right, remember this is a discrete distribution, so we're not worried about fractions, right? So less than or equal to 7 is the same thing as less than 8. And of course, it's a less than question, we can just use the answer as it is. Now for the two that are greater than, we're going to need to take it away from 1, okay? And what we've got to work out is what probabilities we're taking away from 1. So let's just have a quick look here. We're going, for the first one there, the 8 is either going to be included in the less than, so it's going to be less than or equal to, or it's going to be included in the more than. Well here, we don't want it included in the greater than, so we've got to include it in the less than. That's what the calculator is set up for. So here, we can just enter 8 on the calculator, because the group that we're not including is less than or equal to 8, just like the calculator is set up for, and we just take that answer away from 1. This is probably the trickiest one. X is greater than or equal to 8. Okay, so the reason we enter 7 on the calculator here is because we want to include 8. And remember, we're going up to the first number we don't want included here, because the calculator is going to work out everything up from 0 up to 7. Right? So we want 8 or more. So these are the ones that we're getting rid of, yeah? Is everything from 0 to 7. Okay? So then we're going to take the answer that BCD gives us, because this is basically saying I'm taking away everything from 0 to 7, so what I'm left with is 8 or more. Okay? Cool. There's one more thing to suggest that you work with when you're using your calculator. You will have it reset at the beginning of the test, and it won't necessarily be in the modes that you want. So I'm suggesting that you go to the setup menu, which, just give me a second here, is if you go shift, which is the yellow button, or if you go to menu, go to your run menu, right, and then if you go shift and then setup, then you can go down, 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 until you find your display. Now on display, you can choose between fixed, psi and norm. Now the one I most often recommend is norm. Make it norm 2. By keeping on pushing F3, you can switch between norm 1 and norm 2. The reason that I choose norm 2 over norm 1 is that that goes into scientific notation less easily when it's a small number. Okay, because some of you may not realize, but 7.5 e to the minus 5, as I've used in my example on the notes there, that actually is in scientific notation. So that means 7.5 times 10 to the minus 5. So if you don't necessarily think in that way, it might be easiest to go to norm 2, and then it will display, as long as it can fit it on the screen, it will fit it on the screen. If you prefer, there is another option. You can go on to the fixed, and then you can choose how many decimal points you're going to use. So if you want to use 4 decimal places, then you can go fix and choose 4. The reason I choose that is because that's what tends to be on the examiner sheet. So I go 4 and execute. Now that won't change the answer when you're using the distributions menu, but it will change things when you're under run. So if I'm in run, right, if I've just done a distribution, then it will come up when I push answer. So I'll give you an example here. For example, let's look at something that's quite unlikely. Okay, so if I go menu, where's it going back into the setup? Oh, because I push shift, so exit. Right, if I go menu and go to stat, how do I go to stat? Oh, that's right, 2. I want a distribution. Let's say I'm doing a binomial. Let's do something but unusual. Let's say something that has a likelihood of 0.1 happens 8 times out of 10. Something with a probability of 0.1 happens 8 times out of 10. So 8, execute, out of 10, execute, 0.1. So something, each time it happens, there's only a 0.1 chance. It's quite unlikely it's going to happen 8 times out of 10. So let's go with that. Now that's probably going to knock me into scientific notation, right? So there, that means that we've got 3.64 times 10 to the negative 7. Now some of you are going, well, what does that mean? Well, I can tell you that anything to the negative 7 is a very small number. Let's find out exactly what it is. Hopefully you can remember your year 10 maths and do that, but just in case you can't, what we're going to do, we're going to go to the run menu, and we can go shift and that second to bottom right key there, see it's got ants above the top of it, so we go ants equals, and because I've got it set up to 4 decimal places, well, to 4 decimal places that is 0. Okay, so this is the thing, it doesn't change when it's come straight out of the probability menu, but it will change it in the run screen. So you can always do that, and if you're wanting to go 1 minus ants, for example, then it will round it off. And obviously I've got a very, very small number, so when it's rounded off to 4 decimal places, it actually becomes 0, which may not be ideal. Maybe I would have been better off in the norm 2. Mind you, you could say in your answer to 4 decimal places it rounds to 0. Okay, make sure that if it's that you let them know that you have rounded it if it does come up to being 0. Okay, I hope that's useful for you, and all the best for your exams. Okay, bye.